Joe Sena, welcome to the Wrestling Changed My Life podcast, sir.
Thanks for having me here. I'm in the middle of a wrestling practice for the kids, hopefully changing their life.
Amen. You are the first person who has never wrestled to be on the show, but what you're doing for wrestling right now speaks volumes, and we're going to get to that. Let's start at the beginning, though. Who is Anita Racine, and how did she impact your life by getting into Cornell?
Professor Anita Racine. First of all, everybody out there should know I'm in a van right now and it's running. If you hear a little bit of the engine in the background, I'm in the Sprinter van that we use to migrate the children around from wrestling practice to wrestling practice. And a lot of people say to me just what you just said, like, did you wrestle? And I say, no, I didn't, but I just fell in love with the sport. And I think it's pretty rare to be as maniacal as I am towards this sport and not being one of the dads that did wrestle. So unfortunately, I can't give my kids many tips when it comes to moves and so forth. But Professor Anita Racine, that's a blast from the past. She got me into Cornell. I applied to Cornell 4 semesters in a row. I did not get accepted. I wasn't smart enough. My grades weren't good enough. But I just don't give up. I think I would have made an okay wrestler. I just don't quit. And she was my mom's yoga student. My parents were divorced. My mom lived in Ithaca, New York. She taught yoga to Professor Anita. And just when I was about to tap out, I was literally going to tap out on the mat. I couldn't, I wasn't smart enough. Cornell wasn't accepting me. What was I wasting my time for? Started to have self-doubt. My mom says, go meet my student. She works at Cornell. I don't know what she does. And Anita sat me down. We had a lunch, and she said, I understand you want to go to Cornell, blah, blah, blah. She said, I run the textile department within the School of Human Ecology at Cornell. And I didn't really know what a textile was. And she said, there's 92 women in the department and there's no men. Do you like textiles? And I said, Anita, Professor Racine, I love textiles. And so now, here's the good news. I could literally redesign the singlet if you'd like for the whole sport of wrestling, which I think would be an enhancement. And then 2 is I could watch any movie from any period of time and tell you based on female hemlines on their dresses what era that's from. So I have some amazing skills.
I love that. That's your entry point in, though, because you wouldn't have met the guy who took you to Wall Street had you not gone to Cornell. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and I was on the phone with him today. His wife is having a tough time. They're older now, but life is funny, right? Because it can't be that I'm just really lucky. It's got to be that I'm so open to so many meetings and I'm so awake and running around all the time that I kind of find luck. And that was one of those things. I found this guy, Al Capucci in Ithaca at Cornell. And he said, what are you doing after college? And I thought I was going to go run. I had a little construction swimming pool business in Queens. I was doing cleaning pools for wise guys, for mobsters. And I wanted to go back and do that because I probably felt as tough as a wrestler does when they earn like a state title or, a regional title or whatever. I felt really tough because I was around these guys that killed people for a living and they trusted me in their house. And I wanted to go back and do that, even though I was graduating an Ivy League school, which was unbelievable considering where I came from, my family. I wanted to go back to be around those guys. And I don't know, that's where they had respect, they had money, they had nice cars. You felt a little badass,
Absolutely.
And this older Italian guy that you just mentioned was at Cornell, and he said, Joe, what are you doing after you graduate? And I said, I'm going back to the neighborhood. And he said, no. He said, you got to go to Wall Street. And he literally guided me to Wall Street, and that changed my life. So, I had like 3 or 4 moves like that in my life that just were pivotal. They were like fulcrums. And I think if you're listening to this, you got to look out for them. And the other thing is you got to do a lot of good, and you got to be helping people all the time. You got to be in the mix. Like Ryan, like I said, hey, I need some help with some podcasts. Boom, you jump right in, and then whatever goes around comes around.
Absolutely. And it's all about relationships and doing the right thing when you get the opportunity. What I love about you, though, is you'll take advice from anyone, including some random guy who's on the cover of Men's Health running stairs in your apartment building. And so you go to Wall Street, you're a derivative and equities trader, you have your own little business going, but you start gaining some weight because you're not digging pools for the bonobo crime family all the time. And so you meet this guy who's on the cover of Men's Health. How does that inspire your next turn?
First off, if I mispronounce Dan Gable, you would yell at me. So I'm gonna yell at you.
Hit me.
It's not bonobo. It's the banano crime family.
Oh my God. That's a major mess up. Thank you.
All right. So, thanks to him, thanks to the Banano crime family boss, I had a table at a very hard to get into restaurant in New York called Rayo's. I mean, the best meatballs on the planet. You guys have seen Rayo's sauce in different grocery stores. Anyway, it's an impossible ticket to get. But because he was in jail, I had a table, I had a standing table, and that really helped my business, but it didn't help my waistline. And I was feeling like shit, as you would if you stopped training. And when you're doing construction and mixing cement and moving all the time, I was just always fit, and now I wasn't feeling so good. And I meet this guy in the stairwell. My elevator was busted. I was going up the stairs, and he was on the cover of Men's Health, so he was shredded, and kind of like any one of your wrestlers. And we start talking because I got a bunch of flights of stairs to climb to get to where I'm going. And he says, yeah, I go in here every day. I'm carrying dumbbells up and down the stairs. I do these races, and that was it. I was hooked. I listen to anybody. I learn from people. I mean, my kids have been forced to speak Mandarin and practice Mandarin daily for most of their life because I met somebody who said that's what they did to their kids, and it was a good idea. I lived in Japan with my family. I lived in Singapore and Vancouver simply because I met somebody who said they did that with their family, and it was a really good idea. And go down the list. I mean, wrestling came from a dinner I had with some Wall Street guys who told me a story of a coach at Stanford University whose dad made them wrestle in the basement, him and his brother, blindfolded for a decade in the dark so that they could get better at kind of feeling their way. And the guy ends up in a tragic, crazy story where he almost gets killed. But because he trained in the dark and blindfolded, he fights his way out of it and avoids getting shot. I heard the story and my kids became wrestlers. So it's very dangerous for my wife if I meet somebody and they tell me something, because it literally, our life pivots based on people I meet.
And not only that, so you meet this guy, you start working out again, but because you're Joe Sena and absolutely maniacal about things, you start doing 24-hour races just to give some folks some of your street cred for these endurance races, because I think people forget. Tell them about the week you did 300 plus mile races and how that came about.
What happened is, everybody, for as long as I know, want to break me because I just have a lot of energy, I guess. And so friends would email all the time back then, back in the early mid 2000s. Hey, Joe, you want to do this race? And you can't say no. It'd be like, hey, do you want to go roll around on the mat? Right. If you said no, like, I can't say no. So yeah. Hey, Joe, you want to go do this race? Yeah. You want to do this race? And I guess I committed myself, I didn't know it, to 3 events in a 7-day period a few months out. And I only figured it out as it got closer when we needed to book airline tickets. And it turned out the first race was a 100-miler in Vermont through the mountains. The second race was, I think, that Wednesday or Thursday in Death Valley, where it was temperatures were around 137 degrees Fahrenheit. It was a 135-mile run from the lowest point in America to the highest. And then from there, I had committed unwittingly to an Ironman. So in a 7-day period, had to run 250 miles and knock out an Ironman. And it became, when we figured it out, when we were laying out the travel schedule, then my wife layered in there. She said, we got to go to a wedding that Friday. And I was like, a fucking wedding? How am I going to fit a wedding in this thing? But I got it in, and I got the job done. It was messy. at the end. I'm not a drinker. I ended up drinking a 6-pack of beer on the final 20 some odd miles of that Ironman to get rid of the pain. I was in a lot of pain.
Did you ever think about quitting during any of the 3 races?
The 100-mile, we started out with the 100. The funny thing about your mind is if you have a stretch goal, your mind doesn't quit in the early percentages of that stretch goal. So in other words, if you're going out for a 25-mile run, you start to get tired and you feel a little bit of pain around 15 miles in. Literally the next week, if you go out for a 50-mile run, you start to feel pain around 35 miles in. So it's really wherever the goal is, your mind hits a percentage threshold where you start to feel it. So, it sounds silly to say, right? But somehow I muscled through the 100, the first 100, and then the 135. I'm just thinking as I answer the question, I think the last 13 miles of the 135, I set the record going up towards Mount Whitney. I ran so fast, which is not logical. That would be. And then in the Ironman, I was feeling great. I did the swim feeling great, did the bike feeling great. And then sure enough, that last marathon, I was, the wheels fell off.
Wheels fell off.
The wheels fell off. I mean, that's just a saying for like, my wheels fell off. Yeah.
Damn. So the reason I'm asking some of these questions is just to establish you've done a lot of these races, and the most extreme races, in addition to running the death race, in addition to running Spartan. And now you've gone into some nutritional supplement lines, which I find interesting because, a lot of races are out there asking what type of supplements they should take. Wrestlers are asking how can they hydrate themselves. So I've been trying some of the tea, the energy pills, the hydration tablets. Why did you get into this, and what are the lines?
So first off, no bullshit. If you don't like them, I'm not interested in in other words, I'm crazy about nutritional stuff because my mom was a vegan in the 70s. She was so I'm really like, the last thing I want to do is have anybody buy something they don't need nutritionally. And I don't want to sell a bunch of bullshit. The reality is for 20 plus years while I was doing all these races myself, I found myself learning and experimenting and finding out like what worked and what didn't, what was just a waste of money, what it was difficult to deal with if you're on a 100-mile run, what can you carry? And I just came down to some really simple rules and just requiring very simple things. You need your basic electrolytes, and they've got to be delivered in a way where your stomach doesn't get cramped because you need a lot of water when you're doing tough things, wrestling, running, biking, Ironmans. And your body can't absorb water fast enough unless you have all those electrolytes. You end up having these gels and these goos, and your stomach gets basically gut rot. So because I'm trying to solve problems for myself, because I was racing myself, I found a solution from the medical field. How do you hydrate somebody in the hospital without giving them gut rot if you can't give them an IV? And coconut water is a solution. Coconut water is amazing, but coconut water is difficult because it goes bad really quickly. You've got to keep it refrigerated in most cases. As soon as you open it up, it starts to go rancid. So you got to drink it right away, and that's not always available if you're doing something big. Another way is a time-released electrolyte tab. And I found this from the medical field, and I thought, what a simple solution for me, because you only got to carry it. If I need one every hour, 2 hours, I can carry 20 of them, and I don't need 20 bottles of coconut water in my backpack. Right? It's just a simple solution. Energy there, no matter who you are. I'm an Energizer bunny, right? Even if you're Kyle Dake or Jordan Burroughs, at some point you hit a dip in energy levels. Your glycogen maybe is switching over to fat burning, and you need a little shot in the arm. And a lot of people, Kyle and Jordan wouldn't do this, but a lot of people go for these Monster energy drinks or a sugary drink or whatever, and that's the worst thing you could do. So I said, we need a solution here. And we came up, same thing. I wanted in pill form. I wanted easy to carry, and I wanted long lasting. So we came up with with a pill it's all natural. It's plant-based. It's only got 3 ingredients. And we basically take a green coffee plant with the bean and everything, and we grind it up into a fine dust. We take a Spartan plant, which I'll explain in a minute, and we ground it up into a fine dust. And then we take another piece of a plant and fine dust, and put the 3 of them together in this little pill. And I'm not shitting you. I'll give I think you tried them.
I love them.
It's unfucking believable, to the point where I had people ringing my door about how do I get more of those, because you get intense focus, you get a really smooth energy, you don't crash, and it lasts like 3 or 4 hours. So I said, that's going to be unbelievable, because I'll get the kids off these Rockstar energy drinks, all this bullshit, get moms and dads off the 700 calorie Starbucks. And my friends work for Starbucks. They'll probably hate me after this, but and then now let's go to where this all came from. Where did so I'm in Sparta, Greece. Every year we hold a race in Sparta, Greece, and I'm in the mountains because I had to go see the mountains of Sparta, and I see people picking this plant, and I'm like, what is that plant? I asked them, and they said, oh, that's Spartan tea. And I said, tell me about Spartan tea. And they said, oh, well, 2,500, 2,600 years ago, that was the warrior tea. It translates from ancient Greek. You're not even going to believe this. It's going to sound like bullshit. It translates from ancient Greek, Joe, into the English words, he is of iron. I was like, really? That was Socrates and Hippocrates teas also. It's very hard to boil because the plant is hardy and it doesn't want to release the good stuff. So you got to really boil it. It's a pain in the ass because it's not in tea bags, but it's an unbelievable recovery drink after you do something long distance or hard or grueling, because it's loaded with polyphenols, antioxidants. And I was like, I'll take the whole mountain, literally. I want the whole mountain. These bushels, everybody thought I was selling like marijuana or something. These bushels of Spartan tea leaves were showing up at our office, giant, like 20-pound bushels. So every year we take the whole harvest. It's got to be grown in the mountains for it to have all the qualities we're talking about. And so I said, you know what? Again, I've done all these races myself. You need energy, you need electrolytes for hydration, and you need a recovery drink. And why would you not want to drink the tea of Socrates, Hippocrates, and the ancient warrior? Like, it's just unfucking believable. So, I sound like a late night salesman, but that's why I'm so crazy about this stuff.
No, and it's cool because it comes literally in a bag. It's one ingredient. It's you get a pot of water, you boil it with these, the plants in it, and you let it simmer, and 10 minutes later or so, you pour it right into your glass. So it's one ingredient. It's old school, and it's no caffeine, so you can drink it anytime.
And it's no caffeine. You could drink it anytime, and loaded with antioxidants. Tastes good. One of the things I'm working on is a black honey from Sparta, because people might want to put a couple of droplets of honey in there. But again, the name of our company is Spartan, right? So how many things do I really want to sell?
Right. And we'll have links to where you can purchase, and I'm going to make a couple of videos on how to make the tea. We'll chop these up and make them into videos as well.
You got to remind me. I will send you video of like the old men on the mountain picking the tea and playing the little Greek instrument and boiling it with. And I got a couple of madmen, Marines up on the mountain drinking the tea in their shorts. I'll send you those videos.
I'd love it. We'll post them in the show notes of this podcast. Last thing, Joe Sena, and we'll let you go. If you are a parent of a wrestler and they're cutting some weight, what would you recommend for their post-weigh-in meal and drink?
Yeah, all right. So here's the deal. It's funny. I'm working with the National Coaches Association on this. So I've been doing this with my own children. The week before, when you're looking to cut weight, and we're not going to use that term anymore. We're going to use optimize their performance, right? We're going to switch to only water and bone broth during the week. So no sugary drinks. We're going to cut out for those 5 days before the pretzels, the potato chips, the rice, the potatoes, the bread. We're cutting that out all week. And they could eat as many vegetables as they want, like 10 pounds a day, doesn't matter. They could eat some eggs if they want. They could eat some, although I'm personally a minimalist on animal protein, but they could eat that with tons of vegetables and lettuce for those 5 days before. And obviously drink tons of water, and they could have bone broth. Now, they should be drinking tons of water. The last 24 hours before, maybe 20 hours before, cut out the water. Everybody knows the trick, right? Because you've been drinking tons of water, been eating the veggies. You want to be eating foods with lots of water volume in them for that whole week before, and drinking lots of water. You should be taking the hydration pills all week long, so your body's absorbing that water. Now, 20 hours before, cut out the water. Monitor the weight, the optimization. You could always add a little bit of water if depending on how their weight is going. Have them weigh in, and then I immediately follow up with bone broth. We're not going right for a cheeseburger, right? They're going to go to bone broth. They're going to go for the Spartan tea. They're going to have the hydration pill. That's the game. And I'm doing it with my own children, and it's easy. All this craziness, I see what you guys do in this sport. This is an easy way to do it.
Love it. Appreciate it, Joe Sena. You're a busy man. We'll let you go, but really appreciate your time here.
All right. You're awesome.
Take care.